But hey, when you're flying for 8 hours across the country, you want to be comfortable. I said that, and my mom just rolled her eyes and dropped it. That's the good thing about my mom. She doesn't harp like other moms do. Sleepy, Dopey, and Doc have no idea how lucky they are. All right, she said instead. Let's get your bags. Then raising her voice, she called, Jake, come on. We're going to get Suze's bags. She had to call Sleepy by name, since he looked as if he had fallen asleep standing up. I asked my mother once if Jake, who was a senior in high school, had narcolepsy or something, or possibly a drug habit, and she was like, No, why would you say that? Like the guy doesn't just stand there blinking all the time, never saying a word to anyone. Wait, that's not true. He did say something to me once. Once he said, Hey, are you in a gang? He asked me that at the wedding when he caught me standing outside with my leather jacket over my maid of honor's dress, sneaking a cigarette. Give me a break, all right. It's my first and only cigarette. I was under a lot of stress. I was worried my mom was going to marry this guy and move to California and forget all about me. I swear I haven't smoked a single cigarette since. And don't get me wrong about Jake. At 6'1", with the same shaggy blonde hair and twinkly blue eyes as his dad, he's what my best friend Gina would call a hottie. But he's not the shiniest rock in the garden, if you know what I mean. Doc was still going on about wind velocity. He was explaining the speed at which it was necessary to travel in order to break through the Earth's gravitational force. This speed is called escape velocity. I decided Doc might be useful to have around, homework-wise, even if I am 3 grades ahead of him. While Doc talked, I looked around. This was my first trip ever to California, and let me tell you, even though we were still only in the airport, and it was the San Jose International Airport, you could tell we weren't in New York anymore. I mean, first off, everything was clean. No dirt, no litter, no graffiti anywhere. The concourse was all done up in pastels too, and you know how light colors show the dirt. Why do you think New Yorkers wear black all the time? Not to be cool, nuh-uh. So we don't have to haul all our clothes down to the laundromat every single time we wear them. But that didn't appear to be any problem in sunny California. From what I could tell, pastels were in. This one woman walked by and she had on pink leggings and a white spandex sports bra. And that's all. If this is an example of what California was like, I could tell I was going to be in for some major culture shock. And you know what else is strange? Nobody was fighting. There were passengers lined up here and there, but they weren't raising their voices at the people behind the ticket counter. In New York, if you're a customer, you fight with the people behind the counter, no matter where you are. Airport, Bloomingdale's hot dog stand, wherever. Not here. Everybody here was just way calm. And I guess I could see why. I mean, it didn't look to me like there was anything to get upset about. Outside, the sun was beating down on those palm trees I'd seen from the sky. There were seagulls, not pigeons, but actual white and gray seagulls, scratching around in the parking lot. And when we went to get my bags, nobody even checked to see if the stickers on them matched my ticket stubs. No, everybody was just like, bye-bye, have a nice day. Unreal. Gina, she was my best friend back in Brooklyn. Well, okay, my only friend really. Told me before I left that I'd find that there were advantages to having 3 stepbrothers. She should know since she's got 4. Not steps, but real brothers. Anyway, I didn't believe her any more than I believed people about the palm trees. But when Sleepy picked up 2 of my bags and Dopey grabbed the other 2, leaving me with exactly nothing to carry, since Andy had my shoulder bag, I realized what she was talking about. Brothers can be useful. They can carry really heavy stuff and not even look like it's bothering them. Hey, I packed those bags. I knew what was in them. They were not light. But Sleepy and Dopey were like, no problem here, let's get moving. My bags secure, we headed out to the parking lot. As the automatic doors opened, everyone, including my mom, reached into a pocket and pulled out a pair of sunglasses. Apparently they all knew something I didn't. And as I stepped outside, I realized what it was. It's sunny here. Not just sunny either, but bright. So bright and colorful it hurt my eyes. I had sunglasses too, somewhere. But since it had been about 40 degrees and sleeting when I left New York, I hadn't thought to put them anywhere easily accessible. When my mother had first told me we'd be moving, she and Annie had decided it would be easier for her with 1 kid and a job as a TV news reporter to relocate than it would be for Andy and his 3 kids to do it, especially considering that Andy owns his own business. She'd explained to me that I'd love Northern California. It's where those movies were filmed with Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase, she told me. I like Goldie Hawn and I like Chevy Chase, but I never knew they made a movie together. It's where all those Steinbeck stories you had to read in school took place, she said. You know, the Red Pony. Well, I wasn't very impressed. I mean, all I remembered from the Red Pony was that there weren't any girls in it, although there were a lot of hills. And as I stood in the parking lot, squinting at all the hills surrounding the San Jose International Airport, I saw that there were a lot of hills, and the grass on them was dry and brown. But dotting the hills were these trees. Trees not like any I'd ever seen before. They were squashed on top as if a giant fist had come down from the sky and given them a thump. I found out later that these were called cypress trees. And all around the parking lot, where there was evidently a watering system, there were these fat bushes with these giant red flowers on them, mostly squatting down at the bottom of these impossibly tall, surprisingly thick palm trees. The flowers, I found out, when I looked them up later, were hibiscus. And the strange-looking bugs that I saw hovering all around them, making a brrrring noise, weren't bugs at all. They were hummingbirds. "Oh," my mom said, when I pointed this out, "they're everywhere. We have feeders for them at the house. You can hang one outside of the window if you want." Hummingbirds that come right up to your window? The only birds that ever came to my window back in Brooklyn were pigeons. My mom never exactly encouraged me to feed them. My moment of joy about the hummingbirds was shattered when Dopey announced suddenly, "I'll drive," and started for the driver's seat, this huge utility vehicle we were approaching. "I will drive," Andy said firmly. "Aw, Dad," Dopey said. "How am I ever going to pass the test if you never let me practice?" "You can practice in the Rambler," Andy said. He opened up the bag to the Land Rover and started putting my bags into it. "That goes for you too, Suze." This startled me. "What goes for me too?" "You can practice driving in the Rambler." He wagged a finger jokingly in my direction. "But only if there's someone with a valid license in the passenger seat." I just blinked up at him. "I can't drive," I said. Dopey let out this big horse laugh. "You can't drive?" He elbowed Sleepy, who was leaning against the side of the truck, his face turned toward the sun. "Hey, Jake, she can't drive." "It isn't at all uncommon, Brad," Doc said, "for a native New Yorker to lack a driver's license. Don't you know that New York City boasts the largest mass transit system in North America, serving a population of 13.2 million people in a 4,000 square mile radius spanning out from New York City through Long Island all the way to Connecticut? And that 1.7 billion riders take advantage of their extensive fleet of subways, buses, and railroads every year?" Everybody looked at Doc. Then my mother said carefully, "I never kept a car in the city." Andy closed the doors to the back of the Land Rover. "Don't worry, Suze," he said. "We'll get you enrolled in a driver's ed course right away. You can take it and catch up to Brad in no time." I looked at Dopey. Never in a million years had I ever expected that someone would suggest that I needed to catch up to Brad in any capacity whatsoever.